What is going on, people, and welcome back to the channel. These next two videos mark the end of my transporter life. So if you haven't seen the other videos on my build, then please do go and check them out. But without further ado, let's get to it. Right then, so I've finally finished my transporter build, and I believe that I have just created possibly the best transporter that has ever been self-built. Now I know I might be blowing my own trumpet there, but hear me out for a minute. So when I started this transporter build, I actually didn't buy the van to do a camper van build. It kind of grew arms and legs as I went along. But when I did start to do the camper van build, I looked at specs of other camper vans, premium built camper vans, the California, premium built custom camper vans. And I looked at the specs of those and I thought, I'm going to take this spec sheet and I'm going to one-up it in every single way that I possibly can. And that is how this build got started. And I think one thing to consider is I've spent an astronomical amount of money on this, and even more so amount of time. If I were to factor in my time on this build, I would definitely be 60 to 80,000 pounds into this build. So I've spent a lot of time and a lot of money to go with that. So this build has not come easy for me, because I'm not the kind of guy that can afford a £50,000 van. I'm just a normal guy with a normal job, and I've just done this over time, and I've slowly injected more money here and there. This has taken me time. This is almost a 2-year build, a 2-year evolution to get to the stage where I'm at now. So what makes this van so special? Well, like I said earlier, I have tried one-upping every single way that I possibly can. So, I mean, really the creme de la creme of this build is the electrical system. So what I've done with the electrical system is I've gone for a very high powered inverter with the sole purpose of this coffee machine being powered. Now this coffee machine, I ordered this one on purpose. I checked the current of it. I checked that it could make lattes, because that was quite an important thing for me. I wanted something that could warm milk, so then I could always make hot chocolates for the wife. But more so, it was the power, because I wanted to make multiple cups of coffee without having to worry about the battery state. Now, I've gone for two 110 ampere hour batteries in this, which is one more than what most people would do in their build. Now you could go much bigger than this, and many vans do go much bigger than this, but not many people go much bigger than this in a van of this size, just because there isn't the space. Now you could take it to the next level and go lithium, but it's quite expensive at the moment. And if you do want any more information on any of the topics I'm covering, I have done videos on batteries, solar charge converters, inverters, all that sort of stuff. I've done individual videos on, so I'm not going to go too much into detail about it. I'm just going to talk about my build today. So once I got the coffee machine, I then decided to build the electrical system around this. It was tailored towards this. Now, obviously I needed an inverter because this is a domestic coffee machine. So then I went to Photonic Universe and got one of their premium 2 kilowatt inverters. Now I probably didn't need to get a 2 kilowatt inverter, but I wanted to be safe. Now these 2 kilowatt inverters, what Photonic Universe are, they're quite efficient, they've got quite a good power factor, and they're pretty good at what they do. Now I would say pure sine wave inverter is the way to go for this. I probably wouldn't use a normal cheap inverter. So once I got that inverter installed, then that opened the door up for other stuff. So I didn't have to get a 12 volt fridge because I'm already running the inverter, so I may as well get a 240 volt fridge. And don't get me wrong, I am aware that the 12 volt is more efficient, but I didn't really need efficiency because this van is self-sustaining. Along with that, I got two super low profile 120 watt solar panels. Now they are not the biggest panels that you can get. I got two and placed them in such a position that meant that I could always add another one at a later date if it wasn't sufficient. So I placed them at the back of the pop top, and I can always move them forward. Now they're mounted onto a carbon fiber stealth low life pop top roof, which is without doubt the most premium, the best pop top that you can get for the money on the market right now. Stealth do multiple variants of this now, but I got one of the original ones. Now don't get me wrong, you can fit a California that electrically goes up and down, and yeah, some would argue that is better, but one thing I wanted to do is keep this van looking sleek and minimalistic, and that is what I've tried to do throughout the full theme. I don't want electric hookup points on the side, I don't want a big lunchbox on the roof, and that is something that has always gripped me about the transporter scene. Everyone buys the vans and pays a premium for these vans because they look cool, and that is the only reason they do look cool. And then they'll put a £2,000 eBay pop top on it and just ruin the lines of the van. The beautiful thing about Stealth Low Life is their mould is taken directly from the van, so what it does is it's exactly the same profile as the roof of the van, just raised up slightly. I would say it's between 10 and 20 millimeters, but because it's made of carbon fibre, it's 10 and 20 millimeters that you like. It's not an ISO, it looks beautiful. I then opted for a wine fridge instead of a normal fridge. I could have gone the normal fridge route, and a little bit of me sometimes thinks maybe I should have, because you know, you're going to get more use out of a normal fridge than a wine fridge. But I really tailored this fan towards like two adults going away on their own, so it's like drinking wine, drinking coffee, and you know, small tapas type meals that you can keep in a wine fridge. Now it would be good to have a freezer, but I don't really see the need for one. Maybe ice cubes for beverages, but I don't really see the need for a fridge freezer inside this build. So then after that, the creme de la creme of the electrical install is this Cimarine battery monitoring system. Now this is actually made for a super yacht. These are very, very, very good battery management systems. Now don't get me wrong, they do have their teething issues. I'm not sure if they're a new product to the market or they're testing new stuff, but there's quite a lot of firmware updates. It does have its teething issues, and I have had a few moments where I've been sat here fault finding this thinking, Christ, how much did I spend on this thing, and I now have to fault find it. But I always get to the end of it, and their customer service is absolutely second to none. And this thing, I mean, I'm not exploiting half the stuff what this does. I have this measuring my leisure batteries, I have this measuring my starter battery. It alarms when either of them get too low. I also have it measuring the temperature of my battery area just to check the temperature of the battery, because if I draw too much too quick, there is a chance it can get hot, although it has never done that yet. There is also an input for the tank, so I can measure the levels of the tank, although I've not installed that yet. And I don't think I'm really going to install that, because I have installed a 70 litre tank. So 70 litres for two people, which is what I built this van for, is always going to be more than enough. You know, you fill that before you go away. It's going to be a long time before two people go through 70 litres of water, especially when your main consumable is wine. So then the 70 litre water tank goes to this sink here, which is just a very, very basic sink. It is, I wanted it minimalistic again. I didn't want one of the long ones, and that is mounted into this worktop. Now this unit is one of the best units you can get on the market aesthetically. Now, I got this one from a company called Camperworks, and I wouldn't recommend going to Camperworks, because out of this full build, this company was the worst company to deal with through everything. Now, they make these units and then they either give them to you to fit in or they fit them for you. So I drove up there to get this unit fitted, and I had a few problems with this, and I'm not going to go into it fully, but basically they told me this sink wouldn't fit that, funnily enough, is there and fitted. So I ended up having to do that myself. But also it wasn't scribed to the wall correctly, so I had to pull it all out and scribe it to the wall to get more room to fit this rib seat in. I'm not sure if it's because the rib seat's quite large and it maybe would have been okay with a normal seat, but yeah, for the money I paid for this, again, this is a premium product, and you can get things that are half the price of this that maybe look a little bit similar, but they are just not the same build quality. Like the wood what they've used is absolutely fantastic. And with this worktop as well, it's got some, I've ground out some lines, because this is an epoxy quartz worktop, so this is a heavy lump, and I've ground lines out and filled them with brown epoxy that colour matches the van, and this is totally custom. This again took me days to do. It was way more effort than it was probably worth for the outcome, but it hid some damage on there, and it looks really unique. And when I tell people that I damaged this worktop and I repaired it, they always tell me that, well, it looks standard and it looks way better than it would do if it were just a flat colour. And I did really well to get an epoxy pigment colour match to the van, and it fits really, really well. And then of course I've just gone over it, but the rib seat, and anyone that's building a camper van knows that if you want the best seat, it is a rib. I went for a rib 112. This has been covered in forks leather, or faux leather, however you want to say it, and it's been diamond stitched in a light brown Bentley style stitching. It's a lovely finish. I were going to go for full leather, but I found this on the market already done, and it just matched the van so well that I thought this is fantastic. And I just figured, I were having kids at the time, and maybe faux leather is a little bit better than full leather. I've fitted only LED lights in the van, so these are all very, very power efficient. I've got a big strip light up here for cooking. I've also got some kickboard lights going around the bottom that just give that little bit of ambience. I've got some battery powered lights that I can scatter around the van as and when I see fit. I've also, my electrical install, I've made it so it's future proof, so if I ever want anything in the future, I don't have to pull this out and run more cables. I've ran the cables to a location and to the fuse box. There's like coiled up cables under the seat that go to the fuse box that just haven't got a fuse in, and I've taken a note of where I've put all them. So if I ever want to fit something under the seat, like I were debating fitting a diesel heater under the seat, I could always go to the fuse box, put that fuse in, and then I have a live tail under my seat already without having to pull any of this out. So there is quite an abundance of coiled up cables going to various locations, just for that future proofability. And also the two ways, because this is a 4-way switch up here, the 2 ways what aren't being used up here do have cables. One's going up to the roof lining here, so I could have downlights if I thought it wasn't bright enough, and one's going up into the top, but they're just coiled up behind here, so I can always take them wherever I want, or as I see fit. That then moves me onto the floor. So when I started this build, the first thing I did, like everyone is going to do, is I did the sound deadening, and I went to town on the sound deadening. It took me days. There is no cavity in this place that has not been filled. I've double lined it, I've triple lined it in some places. I've gone above and beyond. I spent hundreds on sound deadening, just because I wanted this van to be super quiet, super cool in the summer and super warm in the winter. And it is just that. It is. The reason why I record in here so much is because it is literally like a recording studio. Like, it is dead sound. I actually went for a thinner floor. So my main floorboard, which is a ply sheet, I went for a thinner version of that so I could pack up more insulation underneath it. And then I topped the floor with some parquet tiling. Now these are individually cut parquet tiles, so each one of these is an individual tile. I went for this for 2 reasons. 1, because it looks absolutely fucking sweet, and 2, because if I damage a tile, I can pull it up. Now these ones that I've got are shop quality tiles, so they're real heavy duty, but if I were to damage one, I could pull that single tile up because they're just glued down. I could pull it up and replace that single tile once I've cleaned all the adhesive off. And for me, it was a time-consuming job. Don't get me wrong, it took me a long time because I made it like parquet flooring is meant to be, and I put a bead of horizontal parquet tiles around the units, and it literally curves around the front of the fridge, and it follows the unit. I did it without the seats in, obviously. They also do go under the unit, so I didn't just do it in front of the unit, they go right through under, but I marked it all out and made sure I got the horizontal tiles visible. So yeah, it did take a long time, but the finish is absolutely sublime. The carpet wrapping, what I did, I just got some generic Harrison trim carpet wrapping. I mean, there's not much between the cheap stuff and the expensive stuff. I did see them both, but if I were to do this again, I probably would get a little bit of cheaper carpet, just because there's just not much in it, really. I've got the cheaper stuff on my door here, but I've got the more expensive stuff on the walls, and you can't tell the difference. So I carpeted wrapped it all in black, and originally I went for light grey, Alcantara type suede effect. And then I changed it for this black suede, which I think looks much better. This is foam backed, and I've double lined these walls and the back, so they are 2 layers of this stuff. I could have probably got just some foam and laid it on, but because I put grey and then decided to do black, I decided to go straight over the grey. So this is super plush, and again adds to that sound deadening, adds to that installation. And I've also got on the back door, I've got some popper pins that go through that I just think I didn't need to do that. I could have done hidden fixings, but I feel like this line of pop pins just really add to a bit of character to that back door, rather than just having a flat system. Moving on to the front of the cab, so one of my favourite bits of the build are the Audi Rs5 seats. So these are just generic super sport seats. The ones what I've got have the RS5 stamps on, but they are the same seat for almost all super sport seats. The reason why I got RS5 seats is because they are a coupe, so they can fold forward on a lever, so you can move them out of the way pretty quickly. And because I've got a rotating captain's chair, it's quite essential to move the seat forward before you rotate it. If I didn't get the ones that fold forward, it would take me quite a while to wind it forward. Also, the coupe seats have a button that moves them forward and back like on double speed, whereas if you use the side controls, they are slow. I mean, they are standard like that slow, but the button on the back just doubles the speed because it's catering for a passenger trying to get out of the back seats. So that's a real good utility to have in the van, because I can just move them forward like rapido. They can be out of the way and up the front. I then got a genuine transporter front cab carpet, so I removed the rubber floor and put the front cab carpet in. That was something I really wanted at the time, and since then people have been doing aftermarket ones which look really good value for money. But when I was buying these were at the absolute peak of their value, and I am not joking, a used dirty carpet was going for £400 at the time. I managed to get this mint condition one. It looks fantastic. It is designed for 4 seats, but then I filled the holes with cutouts of carpet. Did a really good job there. You can barely see that it's there. I've also lined on top of it, I've got a mat that just fits, and it's like a walk-through mat, so it goes in between the seats. and that just protects my carpet because they are so valuable, so I don't want to be just on the carpet wearing it through. But the main point is that all the transmission tunnel and the wheel arches are all covered in carpet, which is something you don't get with most builds because people won't go to the effort of changing that front cab for carpet unless it came standard. I've then gone for an Android infotainment system, and I was like literally a click off checking out on an Alpine Halo head unit, and then someone mentioned these to me. Now, I was fully prepared to buy this, have it be crap, and replace it with an Android Alpine Halo system. So I went into this a little bit thinking it's probably not going to be up to standard or what I like, but it has been there for 2 years and it's been absolutely flawless, and I just like the fact that you can get all your apps on quite easily. It basically works like a tablet. You know, if you've got an Android tablet, that is what that is. It's a fantastic utility to have. It also doubles up as a Wi-Fi router, so it turns the van into a Wi-Fi router, which is very, very nice. If you're travelling away, then people can hook onto your Wi-Fi, or you can hook onto your Wi-Fi and stream videos. The screen's big enough to watch movies on from back here. I were debating putting a secondary screen, and I have put the power there to put a secondary screen behind the driver's chair, but I just figured that while I'm away travelling in the van, I probably shouldn't be watching TV anyway, and if I do decide to watch TV, that will do at the front. You can see it from back here. If you do want a closer up view, you can sit in the driver and passenger seats, and that was just enough for me. That being said, like I have future-proofed it in case I ever did want to change it. So then moving away from that is some exterior modifications. So I put the Sportline front bumper on from Travelling Light. I've put the Travelling Light headlights in. I've put the Travelling Light spoiler on. I've tried to keep it as OEM as possible. I know there is plenty of other body kits that make it look a bit beefier, make it look a bit more flamboyant, but I'm really not about putting aftermarket body kits onto vehicles. It's just not my style. Although this is an aftermarket body kit, it is an aftermarket body kit that is a replica of the original body kit, and these are all the correct plastic. They're not like fiberglass molds. They are a good quality plastic. So to be fair, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between this and a genuine one anyway. But at the time when I was building this van, genuine ones weren't available because these had just come out. Then moving around to the back, I've done a hidden water fill point. Now, I designed this part, and you might see him around on the forums, but I designed this on my van. My van was the test pilot project to design this part, and that's basically hidden in the side door. That it's something that was a bit of a... I was learning 3D CAD design at the time, and I really wanted to make something a little bit different, and I wanted to do a part that did this job, because I didn't think of the idea. I'd seen this idea elsewhere, and I wanted something that was like a printable part that could just be sold in the masses. You know, you want to do this, you buy this part, you don't have to worry about cutting aluminium and gluing it on, and the way that other people do it, and they are quite janky setups, some of them, and if you really took your time with one of these installs, then you could have it looking as factory as mine does. I've also put a locking mechanism on that so you can't open it without pulling the lock down. Again, 3D printed. And again, I've already mentioned I've got a 70-litre water tank underneath, and it's also got a genuine Westphalia tow bar, because at the time I had a track car and I was debating pulling the track car to the tracks with this vehicle. I've moved the track car a couple of times, but I never actually went on an event with it, which would have been quite nice to have this sort of comfort at a track event, but it never actually made it there. The track car got sold and I moved on to other things. So there's a genuine Westphalia tow bar that has been installed correctly. People can install these for a lot cheaper and they will just splice into the rear light, but the correct way to do it is to go right into the wiring loom and cord it out and do it properly, and I paid a professional to come in and do that and get it nailed the correct way it should do. And I've been told that is quite important, especially when you've got a DSG like this, because when you're towing, the DSG then knows that you're towing and it can select the gear more accordingly. Maybe not as important on a manual because you can select the gear, but apparently it tells the DSG to do different things. And I'm sure someone will correct me if that is not true, but that is exactly what the forums told me when I was searching for it. Then moving around to the engine bay, I've done a couple of things in the engine bay, nothing too flamboyant, but certainly something that is not common on this vehicle. So I fitted a massive airbox air filter. That was courtesy of Cloud9 Customs. He retails these. He sent me a filter. I designed a MAF housing velocity stack to make it fit this van. Now, no one else has got this in the world unless they've gone to the effort of doing what I've done, and I very much doubt they do, because it took days and days and days to design, test fit, redesign, test fit. It's not everyone's cup of tea. It certainly tidies up the engine bay and makes it look nice. It gives an audible turbo hiss off, which again is not everyone's cup of tea. I'm not quite sure it is my cup of tea, but I do have the standard airbox that is getting sold with the van. So if it isn't the new owner's cup of tea, then they can always change it back, but it is certainly special. I've also got an engine cover, which again was from Travelling Light, which just tidies up the engine bay, just hides the engine. I was going to get this painted in the factory brown, but I kind of liked it how it were. I've also fitted the electric hookup point under the bonnet as well. I definitely didn't want it on the sides to tarnish the sides because it just ruins the look of the van. And back to the old story of the pop-top lunchbox idea. What's the point in buying a beautiful van and then sticking a cheap plastic plug on the side of it, or a cheap plastic socket on the side of it? It's just pointless. I don't see why people do that. Not only does it look crap, you're drilling holes in your van. Yeah, it's not for me. So I stuck that under the bonnet. So yeah, that kind of concludes my build. And although I didn't cover it at the beginning of the video, this full build has been done on a very, very high spec, low mileage van to start with. So I saved up for a long, long time to get this van, this base van. And I ended up going for a Highline with 16,000 miles on the clock at the time. So it's only on just over 20,000 miles now, so it's definitely not done much miles in my ownership, and I've not utilised it as I should do. And in fact, I've never been away in it since I've finished it. I've travelled, I've driven in it, used it as a car, but I've never actually been away. Like the bed up the top has never ever been slept in. This has been laid down on, but it's never been slept in by me. It is going to be an absolute steal for someone when they buy it from me. So the van is a Highline. It is DSG 150. The only requirements I had for my van when I was shopping for it is I wanted it to be a Highline. I would have maybe settled for a Trendline if it were in the right colour, but it had to be chestnut brown. I absolutely love this colour, and it had to be DSG. And then this thing came up on the market, and it was about £6,000 over budget, and it just sat there looking at me for a month or so, no one buying it. And every time I was searching for a transporter, this would always be the one that, you know, you search on Auto Trader and it comes up as an advert and you're like, oh, that's in my budget, and then you see that it's just an advert and it's way over your budget, and they just put it there to lure you in. So bravo Auto Trader, it worked. I ended up spending more on a van than I really wanted to, and yeah, now I've got this beautiful thing that's sat here with me now. And there is loads of other mods that I've not mentioned, of course, loads of other stuff that is pretty generic to most builds, but yeah, that's my build. And let me know what you think in the comments. If you think this is the best transporter that's ever been built, and I know I'm blowing my own trumpet saying that, but I genuinely think it is. And if you don't think it is, let me know, because I'm sure you will, because it's YouTube. And also show me what you think is better, because I'd love to see some other builds where people have taken this much care and attention. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel and consider watching some of my older videos. I'm growing so fast recently. I'm just about to touch on 5k subscribers, which is absolutely mental for the amount of time I've been putting in. This van is getting sold now, so if you are interested in buying a van, then maybe this is the van for you, although I am pricing it right at the top end. I'm not pricing it unfairly. There are vans around it that are similar price and similar mileage, but it is at the top end of what camper vans are worth. But when I do sell this, the channel is about to get a lot more interesting, because that money is going into more vehicles, more special vehicles, and stuff that I want to work on as well. So stick around. I'll catch you guys in the next video.